The preferred way to connect either a satellite receiver or cable set-top box to the television receiver is to connect the baseband composite, S-video, or component outputs directly to the receiver. When using a cable set-top box, you can use a splitter at the receiver location to supply RF to the receiver as well as view in-home modulated channels. The viewer selects the baseband input to watch cable channels and the antenna input to watch modulated channels.
While direct broadcast satellite services originally intended to serve customers where cable service wasn't available, it has become a major contender for cable service.
Yeah, and the major advantage is that the service is available everywhere. Equipment costs are negligible, service is reasonably priced, and there are hundreds of channels. And both providers have begun to offer local stations in 40 major markets, from spot beam transponders that only cover a small geographic area.
Right. Since the system was designed all digital from the very beginning, carrying high-definition sources required no change in infrastructure, just an upgrade of the satellite receiver.
Receiver designs have become standardized and available from many sources, allowing you to purchase and install the best receiver for the job. New receiver designs output a wide variety of analog and digital baseband signals for HD TV.
A key planning issue is to determine the optimum location to mount the satellite dish, preferably up on the roof. The location must be free of obstructions to the southern sky at the satellite elevation for your location, plus at least a 20-degree span to be able to see 3 satellites, and try to keep the antenna within 150 cable feet to the distribution center to minimize losses in the cable.
Plan on pre-wiring 4 RG6 coaxial cables from the distribution center to the dish location for maximum flexibility in the choice of LNBs and multi-switches. As we showed in Part 1, if you have 4 or fewer receivers, you can use a dish with a built-in multi-switch. Or if you have more than 4 receivers, you can use an external multi-switch in the distribution center to support as many receivers as necessary. If you know where satellite receivers will be located, install an extra RG6 cable from the distribution center to that location. This leaves the other coax cables free for off-air or modulated in-home sources. Newer satellite receivers typically have an extra LNB input for picture-in-a-picture capability, requiring an extra cable from the multi-switch to the receiver location.
Deciding to integrate off-air television signals into the installation is a major consideration of the system design. It'll determine the channel planning you use for the installation. Now remember that almost all television stations will have converted to digital format by 2004, and most of those in high-definition format.
Even in a production home, you should pre-wire for a separate off-air antenna. While you can use a diplexer to piggyback off-air signals on the satellite dish cable, putting an off-air antenna where the dish is located may not be the best location.
Now, you should mount the off-air antennas as high as practical, pointed in the direction of the transmitter site. And they should be mounted on a mast well clear of other metal objects and building structures.
In a custom installation, your first step is to determine what channels will be viewed by the customer. If satellite or cable service is being combined with off-air service, you may only want to view DTV stations.
Now, these stations are all located in the UHF spectrum, so you'll only need a UHF antenna. Until you're familiar with your area, transmitter locations, and signal strengths available, your next step should be a visit to the Consumer Electronics Association's antenna website.
The site is the result of a lot of work by antenna manufacturers, retailers, and the CEA to help consumers and installers determine the best antenna type for a particular location. The site outputs a list of all the stations that can be received at the house, sorted by the size of antenna needed, and the magnetic bearing to the station. The list also indicates which stations are broadcasting DTV. The recommended antenna type for each station is color-coded from small omnidirectional antennas to large multi-element highly directional antennas.
In our production home, we're going to pre-wire for and install a dish antenna on the roof right in this parapet area, so it's completely hidden from the street. We also have a great unobstructed view of the southern sky.
We're also going to pre-wire for and install an omnidirectional FM antenna up in this area. And based on our CEA antenna website data, which is in your workbook, we're going to install a UHF antenna up here, pointed 11 degrees magnetic, where all of our DTV stations are located. None of these are going to be visible from the street.
Antenna manufacturers' websites also have a wealth of information on antenna selection and installation. As we mentioned in Part 1, our residential broadband RF course covers everything you need to know about antenna selection and installation in detail.
Next, we need to cover the planning for the distribution of in-home sources, such as DVD players, satellite receivers, cameras, and so on. Now, this equipment is usually clustered in an AV equipment area, such as this big one here in the great room. This equipment is typically used for home theater. Now, nearly all sources of baseband audio and video we want to distribute is going to require a frequency agile modulator.
If you have a single source, you can take a cable modulator and put it at the source location. These will output a cable or UHF channel on the internal cable back to the distribution center.
But if you've got multiple sources in an area, such as we do here in the entertainment shelves, you can use a multi-channel modulator such as this. It'll input 4 sources and output 4 separate channels simultaneously.
Now, since this is a spec house, we're going to go ahead and pre-wire all 4 equipment bays with both an internal and an external coax back to the distribution center. That way the homeowner can put the modulator wherever he wants.
Right.
But you know what, Grayson? The only real future proof there is an empty conduit.
And speaking of empty conduit, we're going to install 1.5-inch flexible conduit between each one of these equipment shelf areas so the homeowner can route his AV cable wherever he needs to.
Another popular video source are these small surveillance cameras that output baseband video or with built-in modulators that output cable or off-air channels directly. There are also cameras designed to output baseband video directly to Cat5 cable and Ethernet network cameras that output their video in the form of a web page.
But either way, if the video is not modulated in the camera, you're going to have to put a modulator in the distribution center. Now, for a single camera, you can use one of these single channel modulators, or if you've got multiple cameras, you can use the multi-channel modulator we saw earlier mounted on this bracket that snaps right into the enclosure. This is exactly what we're going to do in our project.